In this lecture we're going to talk about absolute value equations. You may remember, of course, when we talked about the absolute value, we talked about the distance a number was from the origin 0. So for example, if I had the number 4, alright, the distance from the origin to 4 is 4. But by the same token, if I have negative 4, the distance from negative 4 to the origin is also 4. And so we define the absolute value of 4 as being 4 and the absolute value of negative 4 as also 4, because we're talking about a distance, and a distance can't be negative. So in this lecture we're going to talk about solving equations that involve absolute values. And so the first thing we start with is, well, let's talk about the properties, right, of absolute value. Okay, so the first thing is, right, for a number b being a positive number, if I have the absolute value of a number being equal to b, then we have two situations occur. Then either a is equal to b or a is equal to negative b. Okay, so in this case here, of course, 4 and negative 4 would be the absolute value of, so 4 would be the absolute value of 4 and negative 4. Right, and so notice here, this is what we would get here, right, that a and b, or rather b here would be 4 or negative 4, and so a would in fact be 4. Okay, so remember the important thing is we're talking about the distance, which must always be positive, and it's how far it is from 0. So an equation is going to involve what happens if I don't know what this number is in here. Okay, then we have to consider two cases. Right, well, what if we have a case also where we have the absolute value of a number is equal to the absolute value of another number? Now this is true if and only if, okay, a is equal to b or a is equal to negative b. Alright, same case again, alright, because we don't know whether a or b is negative or positive, and of course the absolute value, alright, must result in a positive result. So let's look at an example. Right, so let's suppose I want to solve the absolute value of 9 minus 4x, alright, is equal to 7. So you notice that we don't know what this is in here. We want to know the value of x for which, alright, this expression here is a distance of 7, alright, from the origin. So it could be either side of the origin, okay? So we have two cases to consider. First of all, we have that 9 minus 4x could be just equal to 7, or we could have that 9 minus 4x is equal to negative 7. Okay? Alright, so in this case here, of course, we'd subtract 9 from both sides. I'd have negative 4x is equal to negative 2. In this case here, I'd subtract 9 as well from both sides. I'd have negative 4x is equal to negative 16. So here I'd have x equal to negative 2 on negative 4, which of course is 1 over 2. And this place here means that x is equal to negative 16 on negative 4, which gives me 4. So I've got two solutions. They're exact number solutions. It's not an interval or anything. And our solution would be, so I need the curly brackets here, alright, of a half and 4, alright, being the result. Alright, now example 2. Alright, let's suppose I want to solve, and by the way, this was property 1 that was used here for this example. Let's solve the absolute value of 3x plus 2 is equal to the absolute value of x take 5. Right, so notice that this is a property 2 form, right, which says that again I have two things to consider. I have 3x plus 2 is just equal to the positive of this, or I have 3x plus 2 is actually equal to the negative of it, and we must use the parentheses. Right, so here we'd subtract 2 from both sides, so I'd end up with 3x is equal to x subtract 7. I'd subtract x from both sides, I'd get 2x is equal to negative 7. Alright, and so x here would be negative 7 over 2. That's my first one. Here, of course, the first thing I must do is distribute the negatives, so I'd have negative x plus 5. So I subtract 2 from both sides, I'd have 3x is equal to negative x plus 3. Now, of course, I add x to both sides, so I'd have 4x is equal to 3, and this implies that x is equal to 3/4. So notice here that our solution then, again, is two exact numbers, which are negative 7 on 2 and 3/4. Right, so that's how we do those particular types. Now, a special type that we should mention here is what happens, all right, suppose, all right, or we want to solve that the absolute value of 7x plus 28 is equal to 0. Now notice this is the absolute value. We want to know how far away is this from 0. Well, the only and of course, how far away is it from 0? Well, we're saying it's 0 distance from 0, which means that this thing here must be at 0. So the only thing we have to solve is this, which implies that 7x is equal to negative 28, which implies that x is equal to negative 28 on 7, which is negative 4. So our solution here would in fact be negative 4. Okay, because when x is negative 4, we find that this expression is exactly at the origin 0.